Hey guys, Birdie here, and I am coming to you with the December Joy Box tutorial. So welcome to all the new members. I'm so glad that you are here and crafting with us. This is so fun. It's such a stress relief, and I truly believe in the healing powers of crafting. So glad you're here. We're going to go over all the things that you're going to get, and then we will cover what you're going to need, and then we'll get started painting. So the first thing that you're going to get, this is the example. I'm going to set that off to the side, and I've kind of started taping my pieces together, but you're going to have your base. You're going to have your snowman hat, the snowman, the scarf, the two arms, the bird, two hearts, your buttons, a large snowflake for the cup, the sled, the words warm winter wishes, and then your snowflakes. And that's what you're going to have for this. Did I say scarf? Scarf. This is what you're going to get. Some of these pieces are going to be loose in the packaging, and then most of them are going to come in a block like this. So this block helps protect all the small pieces to ensure that they don't get broken in transit. Now, what I found with this one is these two snowflakes, when I pop them out, I added too many tabs. They become really brittle. So you're going to find that you have the two snowflakes in this block, and you'll also have two snowflakes loose in the packaging because I wanted to ensure that you guys got snowflakes that weren't going to break. Now, if they pop out and they're fine for you, well, then you just have two extra snowflakes, right? So you'll have double of these snowflakes. Now, this one and these two small ones, they pop out fine. They're not as thin and delicate as well as this one, which is these two here. So just be aware that you've got a couple extra snowflakes in case these two break in this section here. So you're going to have the warm, this little fun swoosh, the nose, the buttons, the heart, wishes, winter, and then the swooshes here. Now to get, we'll cover how to get these out and the best way to get them out so that they don't break in just a minute. But I just wanted to show you that and talk about those snowflakes. Okay, so the other thing that you're going to find in your project, and we try and do this every December because it's Joybox's birthday. We started Joybox 2 years ago, so this is our second birthday. We include a little extra craft or something fun in our birthday box. So let me pull out what we're going to make this month. Check out this cute little snowman. Isn't he adorable? So you're going to have your supplies for making this little guy. So you're going to have a piece of felt, and we did just random color felt. So everyone's going to get something a little different. It could be red, it could be dark blue, light blue, teal. I'm trying to think what other colors. I think there's some greens out there. So everyone's got something a little different, but you've got a piece of felt for that. And then you've got a large round and two smalls. And I got to find my other small here in just a second. But you'll have two smalls, one for the base and one for the head. I've got two larges here. I've grabbed the wrong ones, but that's okay. We'll fix that. So that's what those pieces are for. That's our little extra craft, a little extra birthday surprise this month. The paint colors that we have are dark blue, a black, a light blue, white, red, and orange. Now remember, you can paint your piece however you want. If you have colors at home that you want to use, please be sure to, or feel free to include those as you want. Change it up. It's your project. You're going to have a piece of jute for hanging. You're going to have two pieces of makeup sponge, a large flat a liner brush, a chip brush, a sanding block, and your individual super glue for that. And then this tray also doubles as a paint tray. So the paint that comes in, you can use as your tray. Give me just a second. I'm going to run and grab a small round real fast. And that is everything that comes in your package. You have your insert, which gives you your links to your tutorials, your login, the Facebook group, and an email. Should anything come broken or damaged, please email us so we can get you out a replacement right away at no cost to you. So what you're going to need for this joy box, we're going to need a pair of scissors, some baby wipes, or damp paper or paper towels or rags, a water rinse cup, obviously something to protect your surface, some paper towels for cleanup, possibly a blow dryer if you want to speed the drying process along, and you will need a glue gun for the extra craft. Now, if you don't have a glue gun, you could use some tacky glue. Let's see if I have a bottle sitting here. I usually do. Something like an Aleene's tacky glue that's a little bit thicker to help hold the piece. Oh, here it is. So this has kind of got a good thickness to it. So when we get to the assembly part of that, we will talk about that. But a glue gun works great for this. All right. So, the other thing that you will need is some masking tape to hold down your little pieces like I have here. It's not necessary, but it sure is helpful to have some sort of masking tape for that. This is just green, kind of like it's actually the cheap frog tape from Menards. So it doesn't have to be the most expensive masking tape. You can use the brown masking tape, something that's just a low tack, because as you're peeling away your pieces after we're done painting them, you don't want it to rip that wood off. So I highly recommend staying away from like a duct tape or a shipping tape, like a Scotch tape for wrapping paper works. Washi tape, if you have washi tape that you need to get used up, that works too. So those are kind of some options to help hold your pieces. So what I've done so far is I've gone through and using the sticky side, placed the items on my masking tape so that they're easier to paint. And so I've done that with all my pieces here. All of the small pieces. You don't necessarily have to do it with everything, like the hat, the scarf. They're easy to hold, to paint, but all of the small pieces. Now, let's talk about your card here or box that's holding your pieces. So there are little tabs that are holding these elements in, and you can kind of see them here on the R. There's just a space where the laser doesn't go. So when you're taking out your pieces from your card or box, you're going to just gently give it a little push. Okay, and you're going to hear that tab break away. And sometimes you'll want to flip it over and push from the other side as well. Now, if there's a piece that becomes super hard to push out, and you're not able to get it out without possibly breaking it, like say this piece here, you do kind of want to look for where those tabs are. So it's up here in the corner. I'm going to press on that from this side. I'm going to find that other little tab and I'm going to give it a gentle press. And then I'm going to flip it over and press from the other side as well. So we're kind of just wiggling it out of that slot so that it doesn't break. And there we go. Okay. And I already have that one out on my board. And then same thing for the letters. Press from one side. Give it a gentle press. If it doesn't pop out all the way, go from the other side and press the other side as well. And you are just breaking those little tabs. So just take your time on this part. Just a gentle but firm press. And if it doesn't go from one side, flip it over and go from the other. Now this R is being a little bit difficult. And it kind of just depends on the wood and where that tab is on how difficult or how tough that tab is going to be. So all your pieces are going to be a little bit different. But if you have problems with one of your pieces, you can take a box cutter or a X-Acto knife or a kitchen knife, really. Let's see if I have my X-Acto knife. And all we're going to do is score that mark. So it's really tough right here on this little leg of the R. So again, X-Acto knife, box cutters, or even just a kitchen knife, because we're just going to use the tip and we're just going to press it right on. Don't try and saw or anything like that. Just push it onto that tab or that area that's tough. And just give it a push. And you don't even have to go all the way through. And it's still a little tough, so I'm going to flip it over and do the other side. Right where that tab is, I'm going to just press down. I don't have to pull, I don't have to saw, just to press down to break away that tab. And then you can also use the pointy bit here to just kind of press that R through and get it out of there. And there we go. I think we're set. All right, let's get started painting. I'm going to take off all these pieces and we're going to start by painting the background. We'll give that a good coat, first coat, and then we will work on our small pieces. Okay? All right, I'm going to paint this the dark blue and we're going to get the white out because we have a dark blue sky and a white bottom. So let me pull out the example to show you. So the snowy surface is just right above where our sled is. So we're going to kind of bring that snowy surface about right here. It's about an inch above the sled line. So we've got our sled line here. So I'm going to start with my white. I'm going to use my chip brush for this. And you can get your brush a little wet. It will help this first coat a little bit better. So I just dip my brush in the water and tapped it off. And whatever water was on my brush, that's what I'm going to use. So we've got our light or our white on the bottom. Now we're going to put our dark on the top. Wash your brush. And we're going to go into that dark blue. I've still got a little water in my brush, which is helping that paint flow really well. You don't want to have so much water that it's pooling on your wood, but you want enough that it's going to flow smoothly and not feel tacky. You don't have to paint where the snowman is, and you can kind of just paint messily around those pieces because they're going to be covered up anyways. We want to do a nice light coat on that first coat. It's going to be splotchy and not look very good, but that's okay. This is kind of our primer coat. It seals the wood so that our next coat going on is going to be nice and smooth. There we go. We've got our first coat down. Now what I want you to do before we put this aside is I want you to look at your piece and make sure that there's no water pooling from when we added water to our paint. If you see pools of water, take a rag or a napkin or a baby wipe and just dab it. Pick that water up because water and wood don't mix, so we don't want to have too much water there or it's going to cause warping. Okay? All right, now let's set this aside and we will start getting our smaller pieces painted. So I'm going to pull out this little piece of paper here. It'll help me hold these. And I'm going to work on these bigger pieces. And we'll bring all of our pieces back. Okay. So I have white out, so I'm going to paint my snowman next, and I'm going to use my chip brush for this. You can use the large flat for this if you want, whatever you prefer. And as you're painting, and I am painting, use the tools that you're most comfortable with. You do not have to follow exactly what I do. This is just suggestion and guides. Paintbrushes, I think, are a very personal tool. And I feel like the more you paint, the more comfortable you'll become with certain brushes. There's a lot of technique and different brush strokes I can do with just a large flat. And it's just because I've been using it for so long that I don't have to go and reach for something else. So I feel like, as we go, we get comfortable and learn how to use our brushes differently. All right, so there's your first coat. Remember, the hat is a separate piece, so we don't really have to paint that. I also wasn't too worried about this little center piece right here where the scarf is going to go. So I concentrated on the body and the head there. Again, this is the first coat, so it's going to look splotchy. Always go with light coats as opposed to heavy coats because it dries faster and it is gives you nice smoother surfaces as opposed to one heavy, which can cause your paint to pool and glob and not look as smooth. All right, I'm trying to think what else was white. I might as well do all my whites. I like to do all the colors, all the same colors first and then come back with the second. So I'm going to grab a makeup sponge for this next one. Actually, let me grab this one. That was an old one. I'm going to cut this in half so that I can get 2 applicators. So I hold it by the skinny part, and this is the applicator here. So now I've got 2 by cutting it in half. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to grab some white. And when you dip your white in the bucket or the pot, you'll notice that there's a huge pool of paint there. What you want to do when you're working with a makeup sponge is offload. So when we dip it in the pot, it's called loading. And now we're going to offload some of that paint by just tapping it on the side there. Offloading helps that paint soak into the sponge, and it also gives us a nice smooth surface. So there doesn't look like there's any paint there, but there actually is, and it's just enough for these smaller pieces, okay? So I'm going to start by painting my snowflake here. And I'm just going to use an up and down tapping motion. So we're just going to tap, tap, tap. And I offloaded too much. So let me grab a little more. Let me redo that. I was offloading and talking and got rid of too much. So we're just gently, with like a medium pressure, tap, tap, tapping. We're just going to keep going over that area until it is painted. Now, even with the makeup sponge, you're going to need a couple coats. So just get enough, cover with your first coat. It's going to look splotchy. You just tap, tap, tap. Okay. And then I'm going to grab my other snowflakes and do those as well. Using the makeup sponge really helps us just paint the top surface of our pieces, leaving that nice dark edge from the laser on the sides and giving us that really great kind of an outline look of our pieces. And we don't have to paint those pieces, so you can see how we've still got those nice dark edges, but the tops are painted. And that really gives us that really popped dimension that we want. All right, I think that's all well, we can paint winter next. I'm just gonna take a little piece of this here. Winter on our sign, I used an ombre effect. So I went from a light blue to a white to a blue again. And to start though, I'm going to paint the first coat white. And then once we get the letters all painted with kind of a base coat, we'll go back and add that fun ombre. Okay, got winter done. And I'm just going to leave my makeup sponge in this pool of white wet paint, and that will keep it kind of wet and ready for the next application. So then I'm going to go next into the light blue. It's open. I'm going to grab my makeup sponge and paint all the pieces I want blue. Again, when you're loading, make sure to offload so that you don't have very much paint on your surface. So for the hands here, I left this stick part the wood color since I want it to look like a stick. I just left it natural. So I'm just going to paint the tops here. Just using that tapping technique. I'm going to paint that entire glove. Okay. And the light blue really has a small amount of pigment, so it does take 2 to 3 coats for that light blue to cover. Keep that in mind as you're painting. The white we can get away with like 2 coats, but the blue almost needs a full 3 coats to get a really vibrant, solid blue. Now the cup has score marks in the top to indicate where the rim of the cup is and to indicate that it's full of maybe hot chocolate or coffee. So you'll see these lines here, those are called score marks, and they're cuts made by the laser but not all the way through. It's just kind of scoring the first, they're just fraction of an inch into the surface there. But you can paint right over them and you'll still be able to see them even after multiple coats. So they're great for helping place items, and also later doing a little more detail work and adding the liquid in there and other things. All right, we've got all the blue pieces painted, so I'm going to set that aside. I'm going to grab my red and paint all the red pieces, which are the 2 hearts and the bird and the sled. Red has really great coverage, but you'll still probably need okay. All right, so that is red. Let's pull out the orange. Another makeup sponge. You can cut your second makeup sponge so that you have enough. I'm just trying to think what I want to use my brushes for. I'll use my brushes for the buttons. Okay. There's that. And then I'm going to bring out the flat for the sled bottom. I'm going to do a combination of black and white to get a gray color. So before I start with the sled bottom, I'm going to grab some black, just a small amount, and I'm just going to dab the tops of my buttons black. And this is only going to need 1 coat because black covers very well. Whoops. And then we're going to create some gray. So I'm going to scoop some of my black out, put it on my tray here. Then I'm going to go grab some white. And you can wash your brush before grabbing the white so it doesn't contaminate your white, but I'm okay with that. I'll know not to work in this small little section there. And then I'm just going to paint this bottom piece a gray. You can go as light as you want. Black is really potent. So you only need a small amount of black to create a gray. Very strong color. Okay. All right, so what do I got left? I have my warm wishes, which I completely forgot about. So let's go paint those. Those are a light blue. So everything's got its first coat. So now I'm going to go back through them all and paint a second coat. So I'm going to put these, actually I'm just going to leave them here. We're going to bring back the main piece here. And I'm going to grab my brush, my chip brush. We'll start with the blue. And we'll paint our second coat. Okay. So I've kind of got the bigger areas with the chip brush, right? But I want to clean up my line here. So I'm going to switch to my flat brush, my large flat or medium flat, more like it. And I'm just going to clean that line up. Now, if your blue is still wet and it drags through and kind of blends, that's okay because we're going to add some blue light blue areas where we want to indicate maybe there's a mound of snow there. So blue is a great, or a light blue is a great color to use for shadows in snow as opposed to a gray. Blue just adds a little more warmth where gray can be super cool. Blue can just make it a little more bright. So now we've got our second coat on our base. So we're going to set that aside and put a second coat on all of our pieces. So I'm going to do that now. I'm just going to go through and add a second coat to everything, and then we'll start adding some patterns and some details to all the items. Okay, everything's got a second coat on it now. Now we can start going in and having some fun, adding some details and shadows. So one of the things that I like to do is using the baby wipe, add a kind of a halo or glow around my piece, especially with the dark pieces. And then when I'm working with light pieces, I like to use maybe a little bit of brown and add a kind of a rustic feel around the edges. It's a little worn type thing. And then using white with the dark pieces. So I'm going to wrap my finger with a baby wipe. You could use a excuse me, a damp rag. You want it to be wet. It will help the paint flow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to dip my finger in the paint. Now I have a lot of paint on here, and we want to make sure that we get rid of most of that. So it's really just a watered down from the water on the rag or baby wipe, watered down paint, right? Then we're going to take, I'm just going to tap it even a little more. I'm going to take my finger and I'm just going to run it along the edges, and I get this really pretty kind of glowing effect. Whitewash. Now, if you get too much, and I'm going to pull it down into this because it's mixing with that blue a little bit, and it pulls a little bit of blue into my color here. But let's say I have too much white and I start to drag it in. You can kind of see how it's maybe a little too dark. If it gets to be like that, grab another part of your rag that's damp, so a different area, and just wipe it away and kind of blend it out. So if it gets to be too much, just wipe some away, and you can go over it a couple times to however much glow or softness that you want to add to your edging. And I just kind of go back over it a couple times to help it blend and soften the edges. If there's any areas that are kind of hard, I'll grab this other area and, a different area on my rag and soften it up, just blend it out. Okay. So we get this really pretty glowing effect in our sky there. Now there's some blue from where it pulled up some of that blue on my surface. I'm going to use that to create kind of a blue glow down below. It's very subtle. Let's see if I can get it. It's pretty, if I turn it, there we go. So you can kind of see some of that blue. I'm going to pull that down in my snowy area. And that's that for our large piece, or creating that glow. Now we want to create some mounds in our snow. So I'm going to go grab my large flat brush, so this guy here, and I'm going to grab some white on my brush, and then I'm going to dip my brush in that dark blue. So I've got just a tiniest bit of dark blue on there. And I want to create this look of a mound under where my sled is going to be. And I can just barely, or not barely, I can see where that score mark is. So I know that this sled is going to sit about right here, right? So I'm going to create that mound. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hold my brush. It's flat this way. I'm going to hold it and kind of create these arcs back and forth. So it's going to be kind of dark to start with, just using a light motion. I'm going to go back and forth and create a long, wide arc under that. And we can kind of see that blue starting to happen. Let me bring that a little closer. That white is so blinding. But you can see a faint hint. Now, if you've got too much blue, so let me just load it up with more white. Let's say I dip my brush in that blue too much, and I've got quite a bit of blue on my brush, and I go to start making my mound. You're going to start to see how dark that is. You can already see that. That's okay. I'm just going to keep going. Maybe I'll add a little blue here. I'll create a mound there. I'm going to create some mounds back here. It's going to start to fade away. And then I'm going to come back here, add some blue to my brush, and start to just soften that blue out. I can go back over all my areas with a little more white, softening any dark areas that you have. Just create these fun little mounds of snow using a little of the blue. You can also incorporate some of the light blue. We can add a little bit of the light in there, dragging some of that around. Just adding some dimension because snow is not flat. We want to have some mounds out there. There we go. So let me bring that closer. It looks very white. Bring it at an angle there. So you can see I've added kind of a mound back here. There's a small little touch of some blue back there. I've got some mounds where the sled is, and then another little mound more up front here. Okay. All right. So then the next thing that we want to do is add some snow in the background. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my liner brush. Here it is. And you can do it a couple different ways. You can use the brush itself. So I'm going to add some brush or white paint to my brush. I'm just going to dab and start dabbing some snow flakes around. Or you can use the back of the brush and get more, I would say, perfect polka dots. It's kind of fun to do. You can get almost 3 dots out of this way. So either way, if you want to use the bristle part and kind of create more different fun shapes, or the back of the brush for a more uniform polka dot. Okay. There we go. We've got some snow flying. Okay, the other thing that we're going to do is I'm going to pull a little white out of my pot here and put it to an area on my tray, and I'm going to add a little water to it. Now you want to use clean water. So I've got a little spray bottle here, or you can just grab a little cup of clean water, and I'm going to add some water to it. I want it to be somewhat loose and wet. What I'm going to do is I've got paint here. You don't want it so it's so wet that as you put paint in your bristles, it's dripping itself. Okay, we still want to have some thickness to that, so don't get it so wet. And then I'm going to hit it on my brush here and just do light little taps, and it's going to give me some really cool splatters. And the more paint you have on your bristles, the more splatters you're going to have. This is such a fun way to add really kind of a flurry of tiny little specks. If you're unsure about using this, You can test it out on a piece of paper or on your box and kind of just see what kind of consistency works best for you. So you can kind of test out how much water you need in your brush, test out how much paint you should have, and that type of thing. But there we go. We've got all of these great little specks happening. Wonderful little snow flurry happening back there. So that is it for our background. We've added our detail to that. So let's go and work on our little pieces. I'm going to start with the snowman. And I'm going to lay out the pieces on the snowman so I kind of get an idea of where everything's going to go. Okay, so we've got his little hands here. We've even got his nose. I'm going to wait on his nose and his buttons. But for the snowman, I want to create some shadows on the snowman. And again, we're going to use blue for that. So I'm going to grab my liner brush. I'm going to dip it in the white. Make sure I have white on my brush. And then for the shadows on the snowman, I'm going to use the light blue. So I'm going to dip that. I've got white and light blue on my brush. And I'm going to come around the bottom of the body here and drag that light blue. It's going to blend with the white. It's going to create a soft shadow there. So again, we're going into the white, a little bit into that blue, and we're going to go to the other side. Let those two colors blend as you're brushing them on. Just keep going back and forth till you get a soft blend. You can already start to see that shadow happening. We're going to do that again. This time we're going to go under the arm here. So right where this stick is sticking into the snow, there's going to be a shadow there. So I'm going to go right under that and add that light blue mix, the white and blue mix. I'm going to do that on the other side. Adding that shadow there. I'm going to add a little more blue on this side. I can't very see it. Now, if you've got too much blue, just like before, just grab white on your brush and blend it out. Soften it up. Let's see. And then we also have a shadow under the scarf, so where this is going to sit. So that's why we're placing this here, so we kind of have an idea. I'm going to take that blue mix, blue and white mix, and bring that shadow under it. Because these are 3D pieces, they create their own shadows, but it's kind of fun to have a little blue under there. Okay, and then also around the face, we'll add a little of that white and blue mix. Around this side, and under the hat. Okay, so we've got our shadows there. I'm also going to add some of the blue in the pom-pom. So the pom-pom is white, so I'm going to add some, let me grab some blue. I didn't have any on my brush. Some little areas, kind of an arc, a little swoosh where the pom-pom is kind of going around that area. Again, that white is so hard. Let's see if I can get that. Just like little parenthesis shapes, little smiley faces in there with the blue. And then I'm going to take this off and show you my blue areas, maybe. There we go. I'm just going to tilt it just right. So you can see I have blue where the hat is going to be. I've added just a small amount of blue on this side of the face, under the scarf, under the hands for the sticks, and then along the bottom. Okay, so that covers those pieces. Let's talk about, or let's work on the hat, the gloves, and the scarf. So for the hat, I used polka dots. So I'm going to start with the hat first. And I did use the back of my brush. So I'm going to add polka dots to kind of randomly placing them. And I'm going to leave the rim of the hat blank for right now, so I'm going to add some lines in that. So there we've got our polka dots. And then I've also added when you fold your hat over and it's got the lines in it. So we're going to use white for that. So start in the center, and it's going to be a small arched line. So I'm going to start and bring it at a small arch. Okay, and then as we go out, we're going to kind of increase that arch. This is giving us the look that it's curved. Okay, and then as we go the other way, we're going to curve it the opposite, because it's curving around, so our arches are all going to be a little different. And don't worry if they're not exactly spaced. This is kind of more of an artistic piece that gives us that look that the rim of the hat is turning. Okay. Now I'm going to add a little dark blue in there. I'm not going to wash my brush. I'm going to add dark blue in my brush and kind of just follow along my lines that I put in there, just for some contrast. That dark blue is going to give us the contrast in those ribs, those knitted ribs, I guess. That's kind of what it reminds me of. I'm going to put a line along the top just to kind of give it a defining line that, yes, my hat is turned up right there. Adding blue and that dark blue, or adding the dark blue and white together kind of blends those two. And then I'm going to add white along the top for a highlight. You can add the dark blue along the bottom for more of a shadow. And that is our little hat. Okay. All right, so then the scarf, or we'll do the hands next. So for the hands, I'm going to do a light blue. I'm going to grab the light blue, and I'm going to mix a little dark blue with it and make kind of an in-between color for the shadow. So I'm going to add the shadow on the bottom part of the glove right here. And then I'm going to add a line coming down from the thumb. So where it's creased. I'm going to do the same on the other side. Put the bottom of the glove there. And right on that crease of the glove. And I know that's super hard to see. Let's see if I can bring that up there. So it doesn't look like there's much change to that color, but as it dries, it will darken. Okay, and then I'm going to add some white to the top for a highlight. White to the top here. You can add a little white on the thumb. And then I'm going to have a dark cuff. I'm going to grab that blue and just bring that blue in the cuff area, just for a little contrast. So there we go. There's our two little gloves. And as that shadow's starting to dry, you can start to see it a little bit more now. One last thing I'm going to do with that is I'm going to add a line of white to the top of my cuff just for a highlight. Okay. Those are our gloves, and now we're going to add a pattern to our scarf. I did a plaid pattern, but you could do polka dots, you could leave it blank, leave it as is, however you want to do that. The first thing that I want to do before I add my pattern though is add some shadows. So I'm going to grab that light blue, I don't have quite enough from before. I'm going to grab some of the dark blue and mix them together. Just 2 small amounts here, just dipping my brush in both pots and then mixing it on my plate. And I'm going to bring that shadow in right under that area that's going over the neck. And then this scarf, this tail is going to be in front of this tail. So there's going to be a shadow right here. I'm going to bring that darker light blue, the in-between, the mix right there. You can kind of see how that shadow's starting. Then we can grab a little of the light blue and kind of blend it out, make it a little softer so it's not a hard line. And pull it out. Okay, now we're ready for some fun plaid. So I'm going to start with my dark blue. And I'm going to start by just creating 2 lines horizontal. And if you think about a scarf, it's all bunched up and kind of funky. So when you're creating a plaid, don't worry about it being perfect or your lines being perfect, because you have that scarf that's bunched up. So really you don't even see a pattern that's a perfectly flat, straight, equally spaced line, right? So I've got my 2 horizontal lines. And then I'm going to create some horizontal lines in my tail. So this is separate, so I want to do maybe 2 here, and then maybe 2 at the bottom. I'm going to do that with the other one, and I'm keeping in line with how the tail is positioned, and then maybe 2 right at the end. Okay. And now we're going to use that dark blue and create some vertical lines. And I'm going to create kind of a pair of vertical lines. So I'm going to go 1, 2, kind of close together. Then I'm going to space it out and go 1, 2. And again, they're not perfect. They're not evenly spaced, but that's okay. We'll go 1, 2. And then I might be able to squeeze just 1 more on the end there. I'm going to do that the other way, or with my tails, but because my tails are so small, I'm going to get just 2 lines. So we'll just go down and down. And we'll go over and down on that one. So we've got a start of our plaid. Now I'm going to introduce some white. I'm going to dip my brush in that white and just bring in some white lines next to the blue lines. I go my long vertical lines first, and then we'll do a few horizontal. Now for the horizontal lines, I'm going to break them up. So it's just a swoosh here and a swoosh there. They look more natural, like the pattern's broken up, it's folded. There's a little stitching happening. There we go. That's our pattern for our plaid for our scarf. All right. So the buttons, I'm going to put a little white on the top of the buttons as it's collecting snow. So I'm going to grab my brush and I'm going to dab. So I'm just going to dab some snow kind of on one side of those buttons. Okay. Got some snow collecting there. And then for the nose, I'm going to do a swoosh on the top with white for a highlight. You can also just dab on some white to look like there's snow collecting there. And then I'm going to go and create a small shadow on the bottom. So I'm going to grab some of the brown, or the orange, excuse me. And to darken it, I'm going to use the blue. You can also use black. Either one works. I'm going to grab a little more orange. I got a little too much blue. I don't want it that dark. So we're just creating a darker orange. And I'm going to bring just a small amount of that dark orange right on the bottom of my nose. So let me see if I can bring that up. I see that dark line. It's very subtle and hardly visible, but as it dries, it will give us that fun dimension to our nose. Okay, so those are our snowman pieces. Let's go to our hearts and our bird. Now for the hearts, I'm just going to add some highlights to the tops of the round bits. Nothing too crazy there. I'm not going to add any shadows. And then for the bird, I'm going to grab red, kind of a scoop with my brush. I'm going to grab some blue to darken it up. I'm going to create a dark blue. Now this might turn it a little purple. If it does, if you've got maybe too much red or blue, you can add the other color to it, or you can add a little black. I've got way too much black. I'll just create a dark red. Kind of keep mixing it until it's the darkness you want. Okay, so then I'm going to create a little teardrop for a wing on his body. So the tip of the teardrop is going to start back here where his tail is. I'm going to create a round, come down the other side and create that wing there. It's a little dark, so I'm going to add a little red to it and just blend that in. Okay. I'm going to bring that up too. It's kind of hard to see. We've got a little teardrop for his wing. Okay. Then I'm going to use that dark red and come under his belly, just a small little brush stroke right under his belly, and then under his tail, and another line in his tail to help differentiate the different tail feathers there. So you can see that darkness under there. Okay. And I'm going to grab some orange and paint his little beak orange. And then I'm going to use the back of my brush dipped in black for a little eye. And look at this cute little bird starting to come to life. And then we'll grab some white and add a little swoosh on the top for a highlight. His body, maybe a little in the tail. And I'm going to add one on top of his wing here. And there we go. This cute little bird friend. Okay, we're getting close, guys. So now we just have the cup left. Well, the cup and, oh, I forgot about the slide and the letters. I got ahead of myself. Okay, so we're going to take some of that dark, no, not dark red. We're working on the cup. So we want to create some shadows. We're going to grab some blue. If you have your blue, light blue and dark blue mix still, you don't have to blend anymore. I just need a little bit more here. Okay. And then I'm going to go under the cup handle here where there'll be a shadow. So at the top of the opening, we'll drag a little of that dark blue there. And then at the bottom of the handle and the bottom of the cup. Kind of come around at an angle to give it that look that it is curved and not flat. Okay, and then I'm going to add just a dark blue around the top of the cup. So in this little line where the rim is, I'm going to take my liner brush and drag some of that dark blue This reminds me of kind of one of those enamel camp cups. That's kind of the look we're going for here. And then I will take some of that dark, I keep saying it's a dark blue, but it's the in-between, the mix, the blue mix, and add it to this inside piece here. This inside the cup is going to have a little bit of a shadow. Okay. And then to show that we have a liquid, I'm going to use black. Now, if you wanted it to look like maybe hot cocoa, you could incorporate some brown if you had some. And also, you can mix the brown, kind of mixing all the colors that we have minus black. So a red, the orange, and a little bit of the blue will kind of give you a semi-brown color. Typically, if you have a bunch of colors and mix them all together, you kind of get a brown color. There we go. I got some liquid in our cup. Okay, so I want to splatter this. So I'm going to pull out another kind of protecting surface here. I'm going to splatter it with this wet white that I have that we use to splatter the background with. And I'm going to grab my brush. And you could tap this on your finger. I find it's just a little easier to tap it on another hard surface. And I'm going to splatter it with white. So I want to give it that enameled, whoops, I got a little too much water on there. That enameled look. Okay, I got that on there. I got a little bit of some dark color here, so I'm going to try and clean that up. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same thing with some black. So I'm going to grab some black, water it down. Not black, sorry. Dark blue. I want to use dark blue. Grab some dark blue, water it down, mix it up, and then come splatter. That dark blue really helps with giving us that fun enameled cup look. So I've got some splashes out here that I just want to clean up. Okay, I think that looks great. You can see my sprinkles, splatters. Okay, one last step for the cup is to add some highlights. So we'll come back to this white. I'm going to add a white reflected line in the liquid there on the top of the handle. All right. Then we will work on the sled next. So we're going to go find our dark red that we have. If you don't have any more, mix a little more of that red and a little black. We're going to create that shadow right underneath here. So we're dragging just a thin line. It's right on the edge of that bottom of the sled. Go all the way across. Okay. And then I want to create some white kind of not splatters, but markings on my sled. Kind of like it's got some snow on there. So I'm going to use my chip brush. I'm going to dip it in the white. So I've got a tiny bit of white paint on there. And then I'm going to just tap it on my surface. What I'm doing is I'm moving that paint, that small amount of paint, to all my bristles. Just want to make sure all the water's out, and then just lightly drag that over our sled. You get some fun little white dragging, kind of splattery type paint. Markings. Kind of looks like there's snow splattered onto our sled. Okay. All right. And then the I think it's the last thing that we have is our warm winter wishes. So let's bring that out, and then we can start gluing everything together. So I'm laying it out kind of how it's gonna sit on the board on the base. And I'm taking out my splashes because I don't want to put the ombre on my splashes. So here we are. We've got the warm winter wishes. I'm going to bring out the example and kind of show you what I mean. So you can see how it goes from maybe blue to white. There's like an ombre here, and then it's pure white, and ombre's back down to the blue. So we've kind of got this gradient happening. So to do that, I'm going to grab my white makeup sponge, which, did I use it for something else? No. So I have a little bit of black on it. I'm just going to cut the end of that off so I can get back to just the white. One thing to note with makeup sponges is they're kind of difficult to wash. It's something that I don't prefer doing. So a lot of times I'll just cut the tip off so I can get to a new surface and use it again for something else. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to load up my brush or my makeup sponge with white. Okay, I've got white. And then I'm going to dip half of it in the blue. So I've got lots of blue there. I'm going to squeeze off most of that there. So I've got half white, half blue. And I'm going to tap this on my surface. Let's see if I have a clean surface. Okay, and it just kind of helps that blend. So what I want to do is I want to take this blue and blend it in with the bottom of my warm. And because there was white on my makeup sponge, it's going to create this nice gradient. So you can already start to see how it goes from blue to a blend of that white and blue. It softens it up. Okay. Then I'm going to go to the tops of my winter with the blue at the top and add the blue to the top of my winter. Okay, and I'm a little bit out, so I'm going to go grab some more. I want white on one side, blue on the other, and then I'm going to offload. So I've got blue and white, and I'll just add that to the top of my winter letters. Okay. And now I'm going to load up again, white, blue, too much, so we're going to offload. Double check, we've got the white and blue. Now I'm going to flip it over. I want my blue on the bottom, so I have a soft blue along the bottom. It's just barely on the bottom. Your makeup sponge will probably hang off a little bit. You don't want to have too much blue along the bottom and lose a little bit of the white. You can just kind of keep going back over your areas to soften them up. My R just needs a little more here. And go along the top one more time. Okay, I'm going to bring this up so you can see how I've got the tops are blue and the bottom is blue. Okay. All right, so then I need to create a soft top on my wishes. So we're going to go grab blue and white, blue and white. Whoop. And just bring a little bit of that white to the top of my wishes. And to get a soft gradient, it does take a little bit of practice. You just got to keep kind of working with that paint and getting the colors on your makeup sponge. You want to make sure that you have the blue and the white. And sometimes I kind of just bounce back and forth to soften the lines so that they're not so hard. And just let it dry and then kind of go back over it again. Soften them up. If they've gotten a little too dark, you can add a little more white. Kind of a fun way to add a little dimension to your letters. All right, so let's bring our base back and start gluing everything up. You have a little tube of super glue, so let's talk about that. This is an individual use, one-time use super glue. When you're going to be ready to use it, don't open it until you're ready to use it. Let me say it that way. When you're ready to use it, it does have a piercer in the applicator, so you don't have to try and find a needle and pierce it. As you turn on the applicator or as you twist on the applicator, it will pierce your bottle for you. So a couple things to know as you are doing that. You want to make sure to hold it by the seam, not by the tube. When you hold it by the tube, it adds pressure and glue will squirt out. I've done it multiple times, so trust me. So you want to hold the seam so that you're not applying any pressure to the tube. And then you want to hold it upright so your nozzle is pointing up, not down, because once you pierce that tube, glue will come out. It is not a very thick glue, so you kind of just want to keep it upright. The other thing is you'll just go nice and slow, and as you twist it on, you'll probably hear a release. Oh. And even I got a little glue come out. Okay, so then you're ready to go. So I'm going to start with my biggest pieces first and then work my way through. Now this is super glue, so you don't need to have a ton of it. A couple drops around the edges, maybe one in the middle is really all you need. A little goes a long way with the super glue. I'm going to set that aside for a second and line this up with my score marks. And we're good there, good there, and hold down. I like to incorporate some weights for this so that I can move on to the next piece. So I'm going to do my cup next. Put that down, and then I'll do my sled. And it only takes a few seconds to get the super glue to cure, so you don't need to hold it for too long. I like to just kind of move my weight around for that. Now, when you're putting in your gloves or your hands, the glove that has the flat part here is for the bird. So that is the part that, or this is your left glove, and then your right glove does not have that flat part. Some of the smaller pieces don't really need to be held down, so I kind of just like to hold my bigger pieces down. Because as wood gets wet, it starts to kind of warp and change shape a little bit before it starts to flatten back out. So you might find that your pieces need a little more support as it's drying. You'll also notice that I decided not to put a face on my snowman, but if you would like to add some eyes and some mouth with the black, you are more than welcome to do it. Kind of like a snowman with no face sometimes. I think that's cute. That's a total preference thing. Again, these are your projects, so make sure that you infuse your own style and paint it how you want. Okay. So for the letters, I like to lay out all my letters first, just to ensure that I am indeed, or have indeed, painted the right side. And if I have accidentally painted the wrong side, I'll just quickly paint the other side as needed. Okay, lay out my little splashes. Have those ready in place. Okay, I don't think I glued my bird down. I think I just set it there. I'll glue that down real quick here. Okay. And I'm going to hold off on gluing my hearts real quick because I want to make sure that Well, I want to put some steam out there, and I needed to have my cup in place for that first. We have one more detail item, I guess, to include. Okay. All right, so while that's kind of sitting there, I'm going to flip this around, letting that kind of do its thing, and start gluing in my pieces. I'm going to work this way, so I'm going to start with my S. Now for the letters, I try and just put a dot of glue on two of the biggest points. The good thing about super glue is it does dry clear. It's kind of got a shiny sheen to it, so if you do get a little glue where you don't want it, I use a baby wipe kind of wrapped around the back of my brush and try and wipe it away. The other thing I want to mention too is if as you're working you notice you've applied your paint and your pieces become rough, that is a feature of wood, because as it gets wet, the fibers in the wood can expand. And so if you find that some of your pieces do, use that sanding block to give them a quick light sand. You don't need to go too heavy. You're just knocking those fibers down. For the most part, the wood that we use now doesn't require a lot of sanding, but I find every once in a while, the piece does become rough. And so it's again, something that is just a feature of wood. It kind of all depends on the species of wood, the manufacturing of the wood, how long they let it dry. There's so many variables that go into wood and how it's created, how old it is, how new it is. All of those things play a part in how it reacts to our paint. So if you find that a piece is super rough after painting, that's what your sanding block is for. You can also use your sanding block to distress your pieces. If you wanted to sand off some pieces and give it a rustic feel, you can definitely use your block for that. Okay, so I'm going to slide this. Oh, I completely missed a spot inside my sled that I didn't see until now. So I'm going to grab my flat brush, go into the white, and we'll fix that real quick. For some reason, I was thinking this didn't need to get painted. Okay, now I'm going to grab my liner brush, some of the white paint, and I'm going to create some steam. So again, I'm going to wet it down a little bit. One, so it's a little less tacky. As our paint sits, it does get tacky, so I'm going to loosen it up with some water. And I'm just going to create these little swirly lines coming up from the cup. Okay. And then we can glue down our hearts. And these really don't have any preference. I didn't score those in, just so that you can kind of place them where you wanted, or if you don't want to have the hearts, you don't have to have them. So there we go. We are done with that part of the project. Let's add our hanger real quick. Oh, I forgot my snowflakes. They were hidden. Sorry about that. Okay. I tossed my glue in the garbage, so I'm going to grab my other glue. I thought I was done with it. And just have fun placing your snowflakes wherever you want. I am really forgetful today. Let's see, what do we have? That one's there. Put one up there. And one right there. Perfect. There we go. He's so cute. All right. Then for the hanger, we always give you a little extra in case you need to hang it long, or you can cut it if you need to hang it short. What we're going to do is we're going to take one end and put it in from the front. I kind of twist it as I put it in. And then I'm going to take the other end, put it in the front, twist, and pull it. And then I'm going to take my two ends, create a knot. Cut the excess off. And then we can pull the front. It hides the knot in the back, and there is your hanger. So there is your December Warm Winter Wishes joy box. Super cute. Perfect for all winter season. So here's the sky. We're going to need our 3 wood blocks. And we're going to need our belts. Okay. And we're going to start by painting 2 of our blocks. I'm going to start by grabbing the flat brush and my white paint. And remember, if your paint is a little thick, to water it down. Just add a little water to it, a couple spritzes of a water bottle or some clean water, maybe just whatever's in your brush. Sticking your brush in a clean cup of water and then blending that into the paint helps. Just kind of loosen it up so it's ready to apply. Again, wood is super porous, and a little bit of water will really help get your paint to spread. So I'm just painting around kind of the inside of my wood piece. I'm keeping those raw edges the color that they are. Okay, I'll do this one. Now I've got a pretty good white coat going on here, so I'm only going to do 1 coat. But if you need 2 coats, then pause the video and put your second coat on. That's the great thing about these videos is it allows you the flexibility to pause, fast forward. You know, if you're a seasoned Joybox member, you've probably heard me talk about super glue multiple times. You don't need to know about that, so you're able to fast forward that. And one of the cool features is you can even watch me at a faster speed. There's a lot of times I'll watch tutorials at a fast speed, like a 2 times. I'll change the settings so it's kind of speeds through the entire thing really fast. And then if I need to go back and watch it a certain area, I'll slow it down so I can listen to the instructions. So that's another idea. Okay. So now I am going to grab my liner brush and add some details. Using the black, I'm going to add some. So I kind of need to decide what my top, I'm going to put this at the top so the scarf covers the crack. But if you wanted to see the crack, if you had one, you know, however you want to display it, just kind of look at your pieces and how they'll go together. They're kind of not, they're not perfect circles. So you can kind of play with maybe the shape of the head and getting it just how you want. So I'm going to hold it like this or set it like this, and I'm going to just add some lumps of coal as my buttons. So just funky shaped circles there. And I'm going to wait on putting my heart on because I want to put my scarf on first to make sure I don't cover it up when I put my scarf on. So I'm going to set that aside for a second, and then I'm going to paint my face on. I'm going to start with my eyes, and I'm going to create little ovals. And again, they don't have to be perfect. These are rocks or coal or whatever it is that are found outside when you make a snowman. And then you can put some eyebrows on. Depending on how you put your eyebrows on will change the expression. So this kind of guy looks a little worried, or maybe he's worried the sun's gonna melt him. But if we do more of an up, it looks even more worried. Or you can go straight, or you don't even have to put any on him at all. But eyebrows can give your snowman some expression. So Google eyebrows, cartoon eyebrows, and kind of see straight eyebrows. You know, if you point them down like this, they'll be mad. If you've got this look, you can already start to see he's worried. This one, he's kind of just happy. It's just a straight eyebrow, right? Okay, then for the nose. So for the nose, I like to just create a line and then I will build off that. So I'm going to start in the middle here and drag my nose using a light pressure, however long you want your nose. Now I can go back. That's my location. Now I'm going to go back and just thicken it up at the base. Kind of pulling it out. And there we go. Okay. And I'm not going to put a mouth on this one, I think. I think I'll hold off. But you can add a mouth. You can just add the dots as the mouth, you know, the little rocks. But I'm going to put a little cheek here. So I'm going to get some white. Tiniest bit of red. And it's kind of tacky, so I'm going to add a little water to it. And just create this little rosy cheek here. If you wanted a rosy cheek on both sides, you might want to do the cheeks before the nose so you don't have to work around. See if I can get a cheek over there, work around that nose. Maybe just a little pink on top there. Okay. I barely have any paint on my brush when I'm adding those rosy cheeks. There we go. Okay, so for the hat, your piece of felt is 9 inches by 6 inches. And we just need the 6 inches to wrap around the head. So if I lay my top of my, you'll notice that I have plenty to go around the top. Okay. And so however long you want to create your hat. So this one I made 4 inches tall, and it's got a nice, decent kind of puff up here, and it's got some puff there. But if you wanted something that was kind of more long and skinny, you could make this longer than 4 inches. But I'm going to cut mine at 4 inches. So let me grab my ruler. I'm going to just start it and then just go for it. Okay. So that's my hat piece. And then the scarf is just another about 1 inch thick. So I'm not going to measure, we'll just cut it. That's my scarf. And this is just extra. You could create little mittens. You could get some sticks from the yard and attach them to your snowman and have some mittens on there, however you want to do that. So I'm going to take my scarf and create the fringes on the end. So I'm just going to go about 1/2 inch up and cut some thin little slits. And we've got these fun little fringes here. Do that on the other side. Okay, there's my scarf. And then last we need something to attach our, or to pull together our hat. So I'm going to cut just a thin strip along the edge here, which will be my tie. So I've got my hat, my scarf, and my tie. I'm going to grab my glue gun, and I'm going to start by folding up my rim of my hat. So I'm going to put a bead of glue along the edge, and whoops, grab my finger protector because my glue gun is so hot. I really need to get a new one, but it is new, so I hate to. If you don't have a glue gun, the Aleene's Tacky works great. Plus you don't burn your fingers. It just takes a little bit longer to set up. So I just folded it over and pressed it down. I have this area right here that I didn't get any glue, so I'm going to grab my glue gun and put a little bit right in that section. Okay, so I'm going to put my hat on. I want to make sure everything is dry before doing this. And I'm going to go right up to his little eyebrows. So I'm going to put a little bit of glue right along the top there. I'm going to set that there and press. Okay, and we can flip it over and fold it in half. And you're going to have some extra, so cut away. I'm going to cut a small bit off this side. Okay. And I'll bring this over. And I've got about 1 inch overlap, which is fine. I'm going to leave that. But if you get too much overlap, it's going to maybe come back around the front. And so you just want to make sure that you don't have too much overlap. So I've got that piece glued down. I'm going to put a little bit of glue on top of that flap and bring this over and hold it down. So a little less than 6 inches, and I left it a little long because each piece of wood is a little different, and depending on how far down you wanted your hat on your snowman's face. You know, if your face is a little lower than mine, you might have your hat come down, which would require a little more. But here we are, we've got our hat started. This is kind of a fun looking hat just as it is. But what I'm going to do now is gather the top, and I'm going to take my tie and just wrap it around and give it just a single tie here. Don't pull on these too much or too hard because they will break. And the thinner your tie is, the more likely it is to break. So just go nice and slow and get it to that thickness, or the amount of what is the word I'm looking for? Okay, so mine's a little too high, but I'm thinking I can kind of shape it and maybe glue it to the side. Or maybe I'll add some slits. So I'm going to cut this off, and we'll add some slits along the top. So something a little different. You can either cut it shorter and have more of a shorter cap, or a longer cap, and that's totally up to you. And you can have a little fun little top like this. So I'm going to pull these apart to kind of give it some depth here, so it looks like it's full, and then I'm going to turn it so it's kind of like that. And I'm going to put a little dab of glue so it holds right there. Cute, right? All right, I got a dollop of glue right here. I'm going to try and pick up. All right, so then the next step is let's put our snowman together. So this is our base that's going to hold him up. So we're going to put some glue at the bottom there. And if you don't have a glue gun, you can use, you know, this Aleene's tacky glue, or just kind of any other kind of thicker glue. And again, you're just going to have to let it sit for a little bit longer than a glue gun. Glue guns set up pretty fast. I'm going to give that a second to harden. All right, then once this hardens, we're going to put a dollop of glue on the top of the wood slice, and then we can attach his head. And if you get a little bit of excess glue around the connection point, that's okay. We're going to cover it with the scarf. Okay, we'll let that harden. So let me show you. So this is how I have it connected. I've just got the glue sitting right in there. And I'm going to just set this back up and let it get hard. You might have to hold it for a few seconds while that glue hardens. And then after a few minutes, you should be able to let go while it finishes hardening. Okay, now we've got it attached. It's hardened. Now I'm going to take my scarf and I'm going to wrap it around and fold it in the front. Before I do that, I'm going to just give my felt a little tug. So I want it to look more wavy and natural than just flat. And as we pull on it, it starts to create these little crinkles and just kind of gives it more of a natural look, like it's a scarf. Maybe a scarf flowing in the wind. Don't pull it too hard or your felt will break. But we can give it a gentle tug just to give it some character and shape. All right, then we're gonna, I don't need to put any glue on the back. I'm just gonna wrap it around, kind of tuck it in the crease here. So I'll show you the front now. I'm gonna lay it this way, and then I'll lay it this way. Okay, we're just crisscrossing in front. So I'm just gonna put a little dollop right on my felt right there. I'll lay it across and give it a hold. And be careful not to burn yourself on your hot glue gun. Oh my gosh, he's so cute. I love these snowmen. I might have to add a face and mouth. I kind of put my face higher than I anticipated. So let's just add a quick little there we go. That finished it off. All right, so then we can add a little heart if you want, using my liner brush. For me, a heart is just a V shape. So I hold down, press, drag, and pick up. So I've got my V there, and then the other way, and I have a little heart. And that gives me the starting point that I can then kind of build off of that and thicken it up and make it a little bit bigger. But I feel like that's kind of the easiest way to think about it. Otherwise, it's a little overwhelming. So just think of a V. Put your V shape in there and then just build from that. And there we go. We've got our little heart. This cute little snowman who's very unsure of what's happening. Oh my gosh. Those eyebrows crack me up. There we go. That is our extra something for being a Joybox member. We are in year 2 and so excited to see what the next year holds for us. We've got some really big plans, maybe some changes coming along, but we'll always keep you guys in the loop. We value your opinion. We value what you think of the services and where you want to see it go. So we'll be throwing out some polls as the new year approaches, but we hope you have a great holiday season, a Merry Christmas, and we are so grateful that you are with us in Joybox. So enjoy your crafting time, and we will chat with you later. Bye, guys.